On the day we won the National Esports Championship, my girlfriend of 8 years told me she wanted to personally hand me flowers on stage. Standing on the podium, eager and nervous, I reached for the ring I had hidden, ready to make a grand proposal. But then, with a radiant smile, she handed the bouquet to her best friend, Lucas Costa, right in front of everyone. Under the spotlights, they became the center of attention both on stage and all over Twitter, as people showered them with blessings. Lucas's fans even tagged me in posts. "We told you to stop clinging to our favorite couple." Feeling humiliated, I calmly posted a response, "Respect. All the best to you too." Under the bright spotlights, I stood on the podium next to Juliana Duarte, my girlfriend, as she slowly walked toward me, holding a bouquet of roses. She had already told me that when I finally won the national championship, she would reveal our relationship during the award ceremony. That night, she seemed to be there just for me, holding roses that symbolized love. It was the first time she had ever given me flowers, and her expression was so tender. Blushing, I suppressed my excitement, watching her approach with all my focus. In my mind, everything was already planned. The moment she handed me the flowers, I would drop to one knee, pull out the ring, and propose to her live for the entire nation to see. Even though we'd argued yesterday over some trivial matters, what couple doesn't fight occasionally? Nervously, I rubbed the ring box in my pocket. "Congratulations on your championship." Juliana extended the flowers toward me, and just as I was about to take them, with a radiant smile, she passed the bouquet right past my hands and firmly placed it in the arms of my teammate, Lucas Costa. Lucas, Juliana's best friend, had known her longer than I had. The smile on my face instantly froze. Staring at my girlfriend, who gazed affectionately at Lucas, I was paralyzed before bitterly laughing at myself. It was Lucas again. I should have known. To Juliana, her best friend had always been more important than her boyfriend. Even our argument yesterday had been about Lucas. But I never imagined she would openly hand him a bouquet of roses, symbols of love, in front of everyone. Lucas, with his good looks, had a far larger fan base in the gaming circuit than the rest of us. Did Juliana not realize what it meant to give him flowers in front of so many people? Quietly, I slipped the ring back into my pocket as the crowd's cheers reached a deafening peak. The roar was so loud it felt like it might lift the arena's roof. Amid the camera flashes, everything around me seemed to dim before the awards ceremony even ended. Their sweet moment was already trending on Twitter. Their chemistry as a shipped couple ignited countless fans cheering for them. Lucas's fans flooded the comments of videos, tagging Juliana and calling her sister-in-law. The scene was lively and joyful, but none of it had anything to do with me. Forcing a bitter smile, I stepped off the stage and returned to the locker room alone. Looking at the flood of blessings on Twitter, I suddenly felt exhausted. Maybe this was the perfect time to end everything. I sent Juliana a message. "Let's break up. I won't get in your way anymore." The message had barely been sent when Juliana called. I had no intention of answering. I hung up and took a ride back to my apartment to pack my things. It was the apartment we shared, and now that we were done, there was no way I could continue living under the same roof as her. She could keep the apartment. While I packed my belongings, Juliana bombarded me with messages. "What do you mean by breaking up? Are you sulking again? Be a man, okay? Everyone's saying we should be celebrating. Come on. Lucas and the others are waiting for you." Every word revolved around Lucas. She gave roses to another man and then called me petty. I looked at my phone and let out a cold laugh. Then I turned it off, zipped my suitcase, and left. With no time to find another place, I went back to the dorms at Apex Gaming's base, where the team had rooms for the players. The base was silent. Everyone was out celebrating. Instinctively, I turned on my computer and logged into the game to train. Only in the game could I find some peace. It was late at night when Juliana called again. I was still practicing. I glanced at the phone on the desk, pressed the mute button, and ignored it. Then came a flood of messages. "Why aren't you home yet? Where are you? The flowers I picked for you are wilting. Where are you? Didn't you say you like my flowers? Do I need flowers? Flowers given out of guilt?" I turned off the screen, a bitter smile forming on my lips. She was always like this, offering a slap followed by a sweet gesture. I loved her so much that I never saw a problem with it. I convinced myself it meant she cared about me. But now, I was awake. I saw her for who she truly was. It was time to move on. No one is irreplaceable. Not her, not me. That night, I stayed up training and only went to bed the following afternoon. When I finally made it to the gaming room, Juliana was sitting in my chair, lost in thought. I wasn't surprised she had found me. Where else would I go but the dorm? Hearing my footsteps, she turned and saw me. "Where were you last night?" I called and messaged you. "I thought something had happened to you." Clearing my throat, I replied coldly, "I went to bed early." She looked stunned, her brows furrowing in confusion. "What's wrong with you today? You're acting weird." It was true. The old me would have been thrilled to see her show up here, eager to pour out all the recent frustrations. Now, there was only silence. Naturally, she found it strange. She also seemed to have forgotten that I had already broken up with her yesterday, or how she had humiliated me in public. Before I could say anything, she spoke again. "Today is Lucas's 3-year anniversary with the team. He's hosting a dinner. Let's go together." I wanted to come up with an excuse to refuse, but as teammates, my absence could create unnecessary issues. Besides, I needed to let everyone know we were over. I nodded indifferently, got dressed, and followed her to the hotel. When we arrived, I realized the event wasn't just for Lucas's friends. It was practically a fan gathering. Before we even entered, the noise from the Bellwood Hall was deafening. I looked around for Juliana, but she had disappeared into the crowd. "Looking for Juliana? Let me take you to her," said Camila Monroe, appearing out of nowhere. She guided me to a private suite where I could see the stage below. Juliana appeared, pushing a massive cake while holding a string of pink and white balloons. It was Lucas's surprise gift. Fans were screaming wildly, urging them to get married on the spot and calling Juliana sister-in-law. Camila raised her eyebrows at me and gestured toward the stage. "Don't you think they look perfect together?" I swallowed hard, bitterness rising in my throat. They did. They really did. Juliana had never gone to such lengths for me. Even on my birthday, when I asked for a cake, she just complained impatiently, saying, "We're adults. Why bother with pointless formalities?" And now, here she was, making such an effort to prepare a grand surprise for Lucas in front of everyone. In the end, people only go out of their way for those they truly care about. Camila Monroe watched my reaction, clearly relishing how much it hurt me. She smiled, a sly and provocative smile that twisted like a thorn in my heart. After the event, Juliana and Lucas returned to the private suite. Camila immediately wrapped her arm around Juliana and teased her. "You went all out for Lucas. Aren't you worried your boyfriend will get jealous?" Juliana froze, then looked at me. A flicker of guilt crossed her eyes. "Next time, for your birthday or our anniversary, I'll plan something just as big for you," she said hesitantly. I shook my head lightly. "Don't bother. If it's the same thing you've already done for someone else, how could it be considered a surprise?" I wasn't going to accept anyone's leftovers. Juliana pressed her lips together, as if she wanted to say more. Before she could, Lucas stepped in. "Logan, you're not serious, are you?" Juliana was just following the publicity plan. "Don't be so petty. As her boyfriend, you should be more understanding. Don't make her guess what you're thinking all the time. It's exhausting for her." Classic Lucas, always stepping up to defend Juliana. I let out a soft laugh. "With you taking care of her, why would she need anyone else?" The words carried a sharp edge, instantly freezing the room. Lucas sighed dramatically, offering a resigned smile. "All right then, if it makes you feel better, I apologize. Don't take it out on Juliana." The tension hung in the air until someone stepped in to break the mood. "Come on, we're all teammates. No need for formalities. Let's have a drink." Camila, with a mischievous smile, stepped into the center. That's not the only story. Yesterday, Juliana gave Lucas flowers too. She laughed and glanced at me, seeking my confirmation. Juliana seemed to think Camila had pinpointed the issue. She turned to me. "Are you upset over something so trivial?" Casually, she added, "I bought flowers for you yesterday too, but you left early, so I couldn't give them to you. I still have them." She walked over to a corner of the suite, retrieving a small, wilted bouquet of lysianthus from a box full of beer bottles. As soon as she showed it, someone stifled a laugh. It became painfully obvious why the lysianthus bouquet looked embarrassingly cheap compared to the extravagant roses she had given Lucas. Lucas still had the roses, making the comparison even starker. I could feel the mocking glances around me, silently ridiculing the idea that I could ever compare to Lucas. Lucas raised his eyebrows, a triumphant smile plastered on his face. Pretending to scold her, he looked at the lysianthus and said, "Juliana, you should have given Logan roses. Why this?" The tone barely disguised his belief that I was getting the leftovers. Juliana replied, "It was late after dinner yesterday. There weren't any roses left. This will do. He doesn't understand flowers anyway. He shouldn't care. The best for Lucas, and the leftovers for me." The difference between love and indifference couldn't have been clearer. Why did she assume I wouldn't care? She held the flowers out to me, but I didn't take them. Juliana frowned again. "You don't like flowers anymore? I chose these especially for you." "No, thanks," I replied coldly. "Give them to someone else." "You're being ridiculous again," she retorted. "I'm not. I mean it. I have things to do, so I'll leave you to it." I opened the suite door and walked out without looking back. I had barely taken a few steps before hearing the whispers. "Logan's being so dramatic. The video of Lucas and Juliana is blowing up online. It brought a bunch of sponsors to the studio. Why is he so hung up on this?" "Exactly." Juliana, finally losing her patience, tossed the flowers aside. "Forget him. Let him sulk." Each harsh word cut me like a blade. Pausing mid-step, a wave of sadness washed over me. To her, I was utterly insignificant. I left the suite with firm steps, but inside, my mind was boiling. Every word I heard echoed like daggers. To Juliana, I was nothing. To Lucas, an obstacle. And to everyone else, just a supporting character in a narrative revolving around their perfect couple. As I walked down the empty hotel hallway, one thought grew in my mind. I wouldn't let myself be humiliated like this again. Once I reached the street, I took a deep breath and called a ride back to the team's base. During the drive, my mind was filled with memories, from the early years with Juliana to the present. I remembered all the times I had put her desires above mine, the arguments where she made me feel guilty over things that weren't even my fault, and above all, how Lucas had always been there, taking up space that should never have been his. Deep down, I knew I'd been a fool, but that ended now. As soon as I got back to the base, I started crafting a plan. It was clear my relationship with Juliana was over, but this went beyond a breakup. It wasn't just about me. It was about respect, about not letting anyone step on me again. And most importantly, it was about showing her and Lucas that I wasn't the weak person they thought I was. The first thing I did was message the team manager, requesting a personal meeting the next morning. I didn't specify the reason, but I knew it was a crucial step. Lucas was one of the team's cornerstones, but I had an advantage: my skill. Unlike Lucas, who relied on charisma and marketing, my results spoke for themselves. If the team had to choose, I was confident they'd think twice. That night, I didn't sleep. I spent hours reviewing our contracts and strategies. There were clauses Lucas violated constantly, from personal use of the team's brand to conflicts of interest in advertising deals. I gathered enough evidence to protect myself if needed. Additionally, I started planning my exit. I knew that if I truly wanted to rid myself of this toxic environment, I had to forge a new path, perhaps even start my own team. The next morning, I walked into the manager's office with my head held high. He seemed surprised by my determination, but listened closely as I laid out my concerns. I was direct. Either the team took action against Lucas and his interference in the professional environment, or I was out. I explained how his behavior was harming team harmony, using recent incidents with Juliana as examples. The manager looked visibly uncomfortable, but promised to investigate. As I left the office, I found Juliana waiting for me in the hallway. She looked furious, but also had a flicker of doubt in her eyes. "What are you doing? Do you think you can just ignore everything and act like you're the center of the world?" She was trying to regain control. As always, I stared at her, and for the first time, I felt a coldness I'd never experienced before. I'm just doing what you've always done, looking out for myself." Juliana seemed at a loss for words. For the first time, her confidence wavered. Maybe she was starting to realize I wasn't the pushover who tolerated everything in the name of love. That night, I did something I had never done before. I posted a statement on social media. It wasn't a direct attack, but it was enough to share my side of the story. I talked about how the professional environment had become toxic, how personal relationships were interfering with team performance, and how I was reconsidering my position. The reactions were swift. While many supported me, some of Lucas and Juliana's fans tried to attack me. But this time, I didn't care. I was ready. The final straw came the next day when one of the team's sponsors contacted me privately. They had seen my statement and wanted to know more. During our conversation, I realized I wasn't the only one unhappy with Lucas and Juliana's influence. The sponsor suggested I consider leading a new team with their financial backing. That's when everything clicked. It wasn't just about leaving, it was about building something bigger. Without notifying anyone, I left the base that same day. I sent Juliana one last message. "You'll understand what you lost when it's too late." After that, I changed my number and started working on forming my new team. The transition wasn't easy, but little by little, I gathered talented and committed players who shared my vision. Meanwhile, my old team began to fall apart. Lucas and Juliana continued to be the center of attention, but the team's performance started to decline. The audience, once so dedicated, began losing interest. Without victories to back up their image, they were left clinging to empty marketing. Eventually, sponsors began pulling out. Months later, my new team was ready to compete. Our performance exceeded all expectations, and our success drew media attention. In the first tournament where we faced my former team, we not only defeated them, but made it clear who the real professionals were. At the end, as I held the trophy, I spotted Juliana in the audience, her expression a mix of regret and disbelief. I didn't need to say anything. Her silence was my greatest victory. Since I left everything behind and started building my own team, my life has changed completely. It wasn't easy in the beginning. I was starting from scratch, with limited resources and only the confidence that my skills and vision could lead to something bigger. But slowly, the hard work began to pay off. I brought together talented players who, like me, were hungry for victory and determined to prove their worth. In the first few months, the new team trained relentlessly. The base we rented was modest, almost improvised, but the atmosphere was unlike anything I had experienced before. There were no internal rivalries or inflated egos. It was a united group driven by a passion for the game. At our first official tournament, we exceeded all expectations. We made it to the finals, and even though we didn't win the title, we proved to the industry that we were a force to be reckoned with. That was enough to attract our first sponsors, who saw immense potential in us. Over time, the victories started rolling in. Each championship we won was another step toward the top. Our team wasn't just winning trophies. We were earning respect. We gained recognition in the media, and I, as the leader and founder, became an influential figure in the esports world. Interviews, speaking engagements, and sponsorship deals began pouring in, bringing the financial stability I had always dreamed of. While my new team thrived, my former team, with Lucas still as one of its main players, was falling apart. Their poor performance continued, and the toxic relationship between Lucas and Juliana started to draw public and sponsor attention. Gradually, the offers dried up, and both of them began losing the status they once held so dear. During this time, my personal life also took a turn for the better. At a charity event organized by sponsors, I met Clara, a journalist who covered the esports scene. Unlike Juliana, Clara was someone who truly saw me for who I was, without ulterior motives. She admired my work, but was also interested in me as a person beyond the game. We started dating, and for the first time in years, I felt what it was like to be with someone who genuinely respected and supported me. Clara not only understood the intensity of my work, but also encouraged me to keep striving for more, without ever making me feel guilty for it. As my career and personal life soared, the inevitable happened. One day, I received an unexpected email from Juliana. She said she was looking for an opportunity to return to the competitive scene and asked if I would consider offering her a position on my team. The message was polite, almost humble, but it carried a tone of desperation I never thought I'd hear from Juliana. 2 days later, I received another message, this time from Lucas, with a similar tone. He acknowledged that his career was in decline and asked if he could contribute to my team in some way. I read those messages with a mix of disbelief and satisfaction. Who would have thought that the couple who once dismissed and humiliated me would now be asking for my help? But more than anything, I knew this wasn't about revenge. It was about respect. Responding to them would be an opportunity to show that I was no longer the Logan who accepted scraps. I sent brief but firm responses. To both of them, I made it clear that my team had values and an environment I worked hard to protect. I explained that I didn't see how they could fit into a system that valued cooperation, respect, and teamwork above all else. I thanked them for their interest, but declined politely. For me, that was enough. I didn't need to humiliate them publicly or expose them. Simply showing that the respect they had never given me was now non-negotiable was more than enough. A few weeks later, I ran into Juliana and Lucas at a competitive event. They looked visibly different, not the confident stars who once dominated the cameras and the crowd. When they saw me, they tried to mask their discomfort, but it was impossible not to notice the shame in their eyes. I greeted them politely, but kept my distance. I didn't need a confrontation or anything else. My mere presence was enough to remind them how much things had changed. Clara was by my side at that event, and the way she looked at me, proud and confident, was enough to remind me that I was exactly where I was meant to be, not just as a player or team leader, but as someone who had found their true strength. Today, my team is one of the most respected in the global esports scene. We've won major titles, secured million-dollar contracts, and expanded into other ventures, such as streaming and content creation. My fan base has grown, but what truly matters is knowing that I built all of this from the ground up with my own effort and without stepping on anyone in the process. Juliana and Lucas are still around in the scene, but no longer relevant. Sometimes I hear rumors that they're still trying to get back to the top, but the truth is, the esports world moves forward, and they've been left behind. For me, what happened to them isn't revenge. It's just life giving back what they sowed. I've moved on, with achievements, respect, and a life alongside someone who truly values me. And that, in the end, is the greatest victory of all.